Hello, welcome to this week's Inner Circle. Been a pretty wild week to say the least, so lots and lots going on. We'll start off with FX though. We had the Fed on Wednesday, very dovish, more than expected. Caused a knee jerk down in the dollar. Most people would have thought that the dollar was definitely going to be weaker. But as you see here, we came directly into this really powerful weekly and monthly zone. Held it pretty much perfectly to the tick. Had a timing point on Thursday, and then we've extended a bit higher on Friday. So effectively what you've had there is bad news, good action. The dollar's held up in spite of what the Fed said. Lots going on in Europe as well. A lot of it obviously Brexit, but also economic related as well. Had some pretty awful numbers out of Europe, especially Germany and France. It's been going on for a while now, but Friday's numbers were particularly poor. Just highlighting how really what's going on with Brexit is far more damaging to Europe than what it is to the UK. Not that you'd read that if you were reading any of the press in good old England here. But anyway, major signal on the euro. So lots of timing points. We had a timing point on Thursday, the same as the dollar index. So the euro negative. I'm going to look intraday as well. Let's just if I can find it. So on the dollar index intraday, you can see it broke the short-term level on Wednesday, which is what the market would have been focusing on because that was the recent low. They didn't know about that other zone lurking just below. We're back in the middle of the range, but it means that that monthly and weekly zone is very important below, and we've got 97.13 above. If we do the euro, the slump was on some PMI numbers in Europe, and then we didn't really do much after that. But resistance has dropped. So 114.48 is the line in the sand. True bearishness sees us not get above 113.96. We have a decent support of 111.77, but that's a fair old way away. Go back to the historical charts. Move on to the pound. Last week said that the pound was bullish across the board on against the dollar and against cross rates as well. Didn't really, I'm going to go through the short-term levels as well. We sort of just about hung in there on some of them without actually really getting a signal until that is on Friday. So a buy signal on the pound, but we've got this weekly level 132.17. As a general rule, it's been ignoring it, so it's not very important. We look at short-term. There's some decent support from Thursday's lows. 133.82, which I think was the week's high, is your resistance point. So let's do the crosses. We'll do the intraday ones. The first one was pound CAD, and just about, not quite really, trying to break out of the top. And if we go historically, there was a signal. Yeah, so it held that weekly support, that black line there. We've had a major buy signal. So pound CAD, you can't trade all of the pound different ones, but you buy the strongest and sell the weakest generally. And so pound CAD is the strongest signal. Pound Aussie. That's sort of like not doing very much, pretty much in sideways. Do pound Kiwi. That's pretty quiet as well. Euro pound. Euro pound's been all over the place, surprisingly. and he's back below. I think it's back below that key level. So we had a little bit of a saute above that weekly level, but then it's given it all back. It feels as though it's almost impossible to trade, really. Pound yen. Stock market down in the end on Friday, which means yen strength. So not surprisingly, the pound yen is not really the one. So it's pound CAD is the one. It's right at that key level. See if we can make a daily close above it on Monday. I'm going to look at some of the some other markets that are actually in the news, as it were. I'm going to start off with the Turkish lira, which suddenly exploded higher yesterday. Had a power play buy. They've got elections in the next month or so, and if I just push this together, we can get an idea of what it's done previously. Effectively, the story is that people are holding dollars. So what that traditionally does, or when the last time we had a bit of an explosion in Turkey here, it got the bond market going. European bond markets got heavily bid and went through the roof. There's actually they're not headwinds, tailwinds. There's even more tailwinds this time around, because obviously you've got the problems in the economies of Europe as well, which were not evident in the summer of last year, that's for sure. So you've got to keep an eye on the Turkish lira. It's going to tell you some things about bonds, also going to tell you some things potentially about stock markets as well. We'll do the dollar Brazilian real. Has implications for commodities, primarily coffee, sugar. I suppose they're the two major ones. And the dollar's way up against the Brazilian real, so that's a headwind for those commodities, because it encourages them to hedge up and sell their produce. Let's get back to the majors then. Let's go to the dollar yen. Not surprisingly, big down day in equities, so the dollar yen has broken, although we haven't really had any signals. Let's go to the Aussie. Aussie also pretty poor. Had a negative on Friday. Let's just go intraday. Yep, trying to break down. So that's confirmed. So a negative on the Aussie dollar. Let's just do the Kiwi short term, see where we are there. Not much going on. We'll do dollar CAD as well. Okay, so the dollar against Canadian has broken up. So this reinforces, really, if you think about the short-term charts, that the Canadian dollar is effectively the Canadian and the Aussie are the weakest, and the pound is the strongest. So that reinforces that cross rate. So dollar CAD breaking up. Let's just go historical. And when we look at dollar CAD, we actually had a buy signal the day before. Didn't take out the monthly level, which was why it held fire, but now it has done it. So all things pointing the same way there. So that's it for FX. Remember, you've got that really big zone on the dollar index if there is any weakness, but plenty going on.